We can't have the same reactions to old problems if we have different states, different perspectives, different information. Now we're talking about real in a game here, real change work. Welcome to the train to nowhere. This is the Shaman here, coming at you through the wilds of Czech Republic. And today I want to talk to you about asking good quality questions and learning how to manage yourself in a more effective way. So basically, I want to give you guys a really cool formula today to get you moving from a place of really not thinking very clearly to a place where you're trusting yourself a lot more effectively. This is really useful because I use it myself, and I work with this same kind of technology with my clients all the time, and it has very, very profound results. So the first thing I want you guys to recognize is that you are amazing at being able to understand and create your interpretation of reality. You're doing it all the time. You can't not do it. You are always taking in information, processing it, making stories out of it, and then making up beliefs and ways in which you interact with the world. And as soon as you do that, you create that reality. It's like a powerful mechanism to be able to take this field of possibility that could mean many things, turn it into something, and then make it exactly what it is. So what I wanted to talk to you about first of all is how to stop asking dumb questions and how to start asking good questions. Something that's really common that people do is they ask themselves questions like, how do I do that? I'm not sure if I can. I don't know how to do that. Or, what do I need to do to really get the result? And it seems like fair questions, right? We're asking ourselves prompting questions which move us in a certain sort of direction. But the problem is when we ask those questions, but we don't really look for answers and we don't trust our own answers. So there can be a tendency when we are looking for a solution to something to ask questions which then put us into a kind of a feedback loop or a spiral of not really finding useful information. For example, it's not really useful if you want to get better socially to set that goal and then start to think, well, I don't know how to do that, so I'm not sure what I should do. And then you basically hang out in a sense of doubt and insecurity. And what does that do? It starts to wire your brain up in such a way that it has doubt and insecurity as part of your programming, part of your expectation, part of your projection of reality. And I'm going to get to that a little bit more. But one thing I would encourage you to do is to ask questions, but start to look for your own answers. Start to set up the possibility that you can just find an answer. So for example, I don't know how to do that. Okay, what if there was a part of you that did? What if you could create 3 possible reasons why it might work? And then start to develop and work with that. Why do you do that? Because it starts to develop self-trust. It starts to develop intuition. It starts to develop a connection with what we could call the unconscious process. And the unconscious is really what we want to get into harmony with. It's a part of us that is really working very hard to keep us alive and to keep us happy according to the best that it knows. And if we don't work with it consciously, then it will just tend to push and pull us through life in a very kind of reactive way. And most of the time when people say, I'm feeling frustrated, or I'm sabotaging myself, or I can't get what I want, or I don't know why I can't do this thing that I really want to do, it's because they're out of alignment with themselves. They're out of alignment with their unconscious mind. So one of the ways that you get alignment is you start to trust that it has information for you. You start to ask it questions and then listen for the feedback and be patient with it. So that's the first thing I want you guys to work with, is when you ask questions, you notice yourself asking questions, start to create possible answers that might be useful, and then play with those answers. Maybe they're useful, maybe they'll help you, maybe you'll get some results. Think about it. Most of the greatest innovations, breakthroughs, transformations, information, most of the biggest things that have happened in terms of development have come from people that have basically just made shit up. So I'm not just saying just pluck ideas from nowhere and don't qualify those ideas as being useful, but I'm saying open your mind to the possibility that you already have answers within you, that you can trust that you can start to work with that. So that's the first thing, is stop asking questions that are not so useful and start trusting that you can reframe yourself to be able to ask questions that are going to give you answers. So how do I do that? Okay, how do you do that? Well, ask the deeper parts of you that know how to do that to give you some answers now, and trust and start to work with that. And I know this is a little bit weird, maybe, if you're not used to doing this kind of thing, because I'm asking you to work with yourself at a deeper kind of level. Which brings me to my next point. You are creating your relationship with reality all the time with your focus. And when I say that, I mean the habits of your focus create what you feel, how you think, who you think you are, how to interpret your world around you. And if you understand what I'm saying, then you'll realize that it's the feelings, the thoughts, the internal dialogue, the ways in which we focus on the certain aspects of evidence, the certain things that are going on around us that create the sensations, the experiences, the opportunities that you have around you. Now, do me a favor. Think about something that is not useful for you at the moment. Think about a problem. Something that makes you feel uncomfortable, or something that makes you feel frustrated, something that makes you feel like you don't really want to feel like that. Got it? I want to ask you a really cool question. How do you do that problem? What do you have to focus on to create that problem in such a way that you think it's a problem, that it feels like a problem? And you will find, if you pay attention when you ask that question, what do you have to do? What do you have to consider, to pay attention to focus on, to have that problem? And as you do that, you'll notice that there's an actual code to it. There's a certain set of feelings, thoughts, internal dialogue, information, focus on certain information, certain pieces of the environment around you that create that kind of experience. And when you do that, guess what it does? It tells the nervous system to fire up a reaction. And every time you fire up that reaction, it sends out neurochemistry. That neurochemistry influences how your physiology feels, what you respond to, what kinds of information you have access to, what kinds of states you go into. And what most people do is they focus on something they don't want. They feel bad about it. They don't like the feeling of feeling bad about it. So then they ask themselves bad questions about why they feel bad about it. And then they find more evidence and they fire it up again and again and again and again. And they just keep refiring the nervous system to have these kinds of reactions to the environment around them. And what does that do over time? It sets up pathways, strong neural pathways, habits. It sets up chemical tendencies and almost addictions inside of the brain. So what that does is that creates who you are over time. It creates your tendencies. The truth is that you are constantly changing. Every part of you is constantly changing. Physically, mentally, emotionally, energetically, everything's changing. Some parts more slower than others, but ultimately everything's changing. There is literally nothing inside your body that will stay the same over an extended period of time. So the real miracle is, how do you keep creating problems? You have to work hard to keep your problems there. So start to change your focus. First thing changing your focus is realize that you're creating it in some ways. You're doing it. You're making it happen to a degree. And the next thing is start to realize, well, what can you do to shift that? Well, I'll ask you a more quality question. The next question, which is important, is what were you not considering that is not the problem? It's got nothing to do with the problem. That is going on around you, that is basically good, that is basically fine, that is basically useful, neutral, or changing in the way that you want. So what is it that you're not considering that is not the problem, that is basically good, that is transforming, changing, and moving in a way that you would like to, or it's supporting you in some way? And guess what? The whole world is going on around you. That's not your problem. Then your body is taking care of you. There's people and places and situations and systems that you may not have been paying attention to that are all in place to help you to do what you need to do. Right now I'm sitting on a train. It's a miracle. I get to drive along in this amazing machine. It takes me from one country to another, and it's taking care of me. It's getting me where I need to go. And I can focus on that. I can focus on, there's this huge expansive environment outside, this perfect biosphere of weather and light, and there's people around me. There's everything I basically need that's all here to basically support me. And I can trust in that. I can use that. I can start to feel how that makes me feel. Now, when I think of a problem and I think of all that other stuff, All the other stuff is way, 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 way bigger than any problem. So what does that do? It starts to make you realize that your problems are pretty insignificant and small in the face of all the cool stuff that's actually going on. Now, the next question is, how does it make you feel to consider all the things that are not your problem that are changing in the ways that are useful or good or helping you in some way? And I'm going to take a guess that when you really consider those things, it's going to make you feel either neutral or really good. So you're going to start to feel quite stable and quite strong inside yourself. And I want you to spend some time really doing that. Notice the changes inside your nervous system because you asked a good quality question. What was I not considering that's not the problem that is changing the way that I want? Let's have a think about that. How does that feel? Feels good. Okay, good. Now you feel good. Now, take a look at the problem again, except feel good when you look at it. And notice what's different. Notice that you can't look at the same problem with a different state and not change it. So this is something very interesting as well. We can't have the same reactions to old problems if we have different states, different perspectives, different information. Now we're talking about real in a game here, real change work. It's like adding new information, new perspectives, new shifts to how you're operating, and you can do it that fast. You can do it very quickly with the right kinds of questions and the right kinds of focus. Look at the problem from this new perspective. Notice, what do you see? What do you feel? Maybe it's different. Okay, cool. I'm not going to say it's completely gone, but maybe you just see something a bit different to what you've seen before. You feel something a bit different to what you felt before. And now the question is, what were you not considering that is now changing about the problem in a way that is useful or that you do like? Or what is now changing about the problem that you weren't considering, that you're learning from, that you're growing through? Now, what does that do? It starts to add more change to the process. It starts to show you that the idea of your problem is not a thing. The idea of your problem is a process. The idea of your problem is actually something that's fluid and can transform and can change. And you can transform and you can change because you are constantly changing. And you know what the brilliance of your being is? That you are a genius at that. You really are a genius at that. Your body, your mind, your nervous system, it's designed to be adaptive, to be spontaneous, to upgrade itself, to learn fast, to put habits into practice. So use it. Start to program it effectively. Start to use your focus effectively. And you can use that very simple formula I just showed you. I've got a problem. How do you know you've got a problem? What do you need to focus on to think that you've got the problem? Got it? Cool. Now, what weren't you considering that is not the problem, that is all the things that are changing? Cool. Got that? Now, how does the problem look? Different. Feels different. Cool. Now, what's changing about the problem that you weren't considering that is changing the way that you would like? Or changing in a good way, changing some way that's helping you learn? Got it? Cool. And now cycle through the questions again. And guess what? You're going to start to break the problem. You're going to start to break the habits. You're going to start to break the way in which you hold your attention. And I would suggest that you start to ask yourself good quality questions along the lines of, what was I not considering that is useful in my life right now? What was I not considering that can help me to grow, to be who I need to be? And start to direct your unconscious, direct your imagination, direct your mind to find those kinds of answers, because they're the kinds of things that are really going to help you along the way. Now, another really cool thing along the lines of that is to also consider to what extent you can learn to take this newfound feeling of all the things that are changing the way that you want and to move it into all kinds of areas of your life so that your unconscious mind can really show you new possibilities, not just in one area, but across multiple domains, across multiple areas. So when you do that, you start to generalize change. You start to move one skill that operated in one area across multiple domains, multiple areas. Very, very good thing to do. Yet again, another cool thing, by simply asking the question, to what extent can I begin to consider all the ways in which my unconscious mind can use this skill in other areas? Pretty cool, huh? Okay, so that's asking good quality questions, starting to create positive habits of focus. Now, my next point is to open yourself to the process of change, transformation, trust. Now, this is not always going to be easy when you first begin really doing change work, because the tendency is that you need to be in control. The thing that I see a lot in questions and a lot in students is this kind of idea that they need to have it under control. They need to have a system. They need to know the future. They need to be able to predict and control with certainty what's going to happen next. And all I can say is, if that's the way you want to look at the world, is you're going to live in a very small world, because the world, reality, whatever you want to call this experience that's going on, is far more mysterious and expansive and filled with miracles than we can consciously gather. So it's better to get out of the way and to start to go with the flow, to stop questioning so much and just start feeling, to start operating from a place of moving towards what it is that you want with positive expectation, considering all the things that are helping you along the way, knowing and trusting that even though you maybe once upon a time had problems, that now you are considering new things. You are moving, you are changing, you are becoming something different, something more, something unexpected. And it's always a nice surprise when you start to become what it is that you want in unexpected ways, right? What I wanted to move on to next was that this is really about trusting in the process. And when you trust in the process, then you can start to focus on what works. Because that's really what I'm saying here, is stop asking things, focusing on things, doing things that are not useful for your nervous system. Start asking things, doing things, feeling things that are useful for your nervous system. Because when we feel good, when we go into positive physiologies, you could say, or resourceful physiologies, then we tend to be able to go for what we want a lot easier. We feel neutral, we feel unreactive, we feel resourceful, we feel fun, playful, spontaneous, all kinds of good things. And that's what I want you to feel. And how can you focus on what works? Well, draw from the environment all around you, looking for things that help you to be inspired, to feel good in your body, to trust yourself. So to recap, notice when you're using your mind in ways that are starting to limit you, and catch yourself doing that and stop. Just stop, like stop. And start to reframe, reprogram, and refocus yourself. For example, if you're saying, I can't do that, what if you could? I don't know how to do that. Well, what if there's parts of you that can start to lead you to the answers? How do I do that? Well, go inside, start to trust and feel what that might be like, and follow that trail. Got a problem. I have this feeling. I can't do it. How do you do that problem? How do you know? Okay, you got it? Good. Now, what are you not focusing on? What are you not considering that is not the problem, that is all the other things that is good, useful, and helpful in some way? Work with that. And now, what were you not considering and not focusing on about the problem that is now changing? Now feeling different, now looking different. Cool, got it? Now the problem's changing. Move through it more and more. Start to realize you can transform it. You can change it until it doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't hold any meaning. It doesn't hold any attachment. And what does that do? It frees you to be in the process of fluid motion, transformation, liquidity, just being who you are. And that's a good place to be, because you don't have to be responsible for everything. You don't have to try and control everything. You don't have to know everything. You can just work with what is and keep your focus where you want to go and keep moving. And it'll take you there, because your unconscious mind is your friend. It wants to help you get there. This is about focusing on what works. Now, one thing I'll say to end this is start to make friends with yourself. Start to make friends with the unconscious process and give gratitude, appreciation, and thanks to yourself and to the environment around you on a regular basis at an internal level. Basically, just do this by feeling good. Do it with women. You want to get better with women? Focus on women and feel good. Focus on how you can have a higher aim and a higher purpose that you share together. A purpose of feeling good together, creating things together, helping them to find themselves, to be more happy, to be all the things that they need to be. Because a lot of the time, guys really mess themselves up because they're so focused on what they want to get, not focusing on what they can give and what they can share. So that's a very powerful hack, and maybe I'll make another video about that later. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Me and Jean Baudard are going to continue our train trip here. Make sure you click subscribe and send me more questions. I wish you all the best and may all your dreams come true. Interested in learning more about inner game and the inner game coaching work that I do, please click subscribe, and sign up for an inquiry form, and I'll personally get in contact with you to tell you more about the work that I do, as well as some general information that will help you understand the process. See you guys in the next video. Good luck, and may all your dreams come true.